Australians are among the worst offenders when it comes to illegal downloads. Consumers have long blamed content creators for not making their material more available, but they now blame internet companies for not doing more to help. And as everyone passes the buck, the government is aiming for consensus. Jemima White reports.
There is yet one hope.
No, guys, wait up!
Lego, most people don't know this, was an Australian film.
Oh my gosh, I love this song!
Everything is awesome.
In the Australian movie and TV production world, everything is far from awesome.
We held it off for the school holidays. Big mistake. Because it wasn't available, people unfortunately pirated the movie, and we lost a lot of revenue as a consequence. It would be in the millions.
There are more and more and more and millions of illegal downloads of high quality programming all the time. And this is a real issue because it undermines the whole economics of television and movie production.
From the music perspective, we know the industry is pretty much half the size that it once was. And that's before we adjust for inflation, by the way, which is quite a depressing thought.
Everything is cool when you're part of the team.
And there's no team when it comes to stopping content thieves.
I think that iiNet and the other ISPs should be paying a fair share.
We don't believe we have a responsibility to manage somebody else's infringements.
Movie studios and TV broadcasters want ISPs to send warning notices to people found downloading content illegally. If the offenders don't stop after 3 warnings, the ISP would then be required to slow their internet connection.
The issue is that there are significant costs associated with defeating piracy, and nobody wants to pay for it.
They send notices to their customers the whole time. It's pretty much pressing a button. So we think the most efficient way to make sure the costs are kept as low as possible is that the ISPs bear those costs.
The suggestion that we could just press a button is absolute nonsense.
The TV and movie industry says it's done all it can to meet consumer demands.
We've done a few things. We've halved the price of our on-demand movie service Presto, but it's not the solution by itself. Look at a service like Netflix in the US, which is very cheap. One of their great shows is Orange is the New Black, and despite the fact that it's available on Netflix at a very reasonable price, it is one of the most highly illegally downloaded shows in the US. So pricing alone doesn't solve it. You need that legislative framework.
Those changes that the market has been recommending, they're now starting to adopt. They're very late. I support them, I applaud what they're doing, but gee, it would have been great if they'd done it in 2005.
Communications Minister Malcolm Turnbull has stepped in to try and reach consensus on a policy response. Part of the problem is that Australia has dragged its feet on implementing anti-piracy legislation.
People are used to taking their TV and film content from torrent sites for a long time, and that's not going to change overnight. And that's something, again, the policymakers have to think about, which is, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Music download service Spotify wants TV and movie companies to learn from the music industry.
If you build something that's better than piracy, people will come. We're affecting habitual behaviour by offering something that's superior to illegal free.
But before change, the industry has to resolve the bad blood first.
Pow! Wham!
iiNet have come out with what, in our view, has been deceptive and misleading conduct. In fact, we've referred it to the ACCC.
Good luck with that, Graham.
Oh, they're a bit fired up on a Sunday morning. Let's see if that mood extends to our panel today. Investor John Sevior from Airlie Funds Management and AFR Chanticleer economist Mike Smith. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
John, what do you think? It's a bit rich, isn't it, for companies like Foxtel and Village Roadshow to be crying poor on this issue of piracy? They're making money, and it's claimed that piracy is the terrorism of the internet, but it's not really denting their bottom line.
Well, the bottom line is fine, but I mean, there are ethics and morals in this, and the challenge for all content providers is it's becoming cheaper and easier to pirate content.
And is it the issue that they're more concerned about who's going to pay for policing it rather than how much is going to impact their business? Or a bit of both?
I think, really, you know, most businesses are in it for a return. I think they want a fair return for the money they spend.
And Mike, if no side wants to take responsibility for this, they're sort of buck passing it as to who's going to police it. Should the government perhaps scrap its hopes of a consensus and maybe come in with some tougher laws?
Well, that's right. It's going to be very hard to get a consensus. The ISP providers and the content providers are never going to agree on this. Look, I don't know if coming in with sort of enforced legislation's going to resolve the issue as well. That could be very bad for ISPs if you're forcing them to sort of ban certain websites. I mean, part of the onus now is on the content providers themselves to really sort of up their game, to offer the kind of content that people really want when they want it, screening sort of shows at the same time as they're being
rather than
screened
holding
offshore.
off releases, as they mentioned. And I suppose adapting like the music industry has to some degree as well.
That's right, yeah.
And John, piracy is an issue, of course, that Telstra 2 is grappling with. How do you see that telco performing overall? And David Thodey as a manager, how do you rate him?
Well, it's a company making transition to an NBN world, and I think they're doing a pretty sensible job. They're focusing on improving customer advocacy and performance. I think they're taking costs out in a pretty consistent, disciplined fashion. So within the limitations they've got to deal with, I think they're doing a very good job.
And Thodey himself?
I think he's very solid, very sensible, and sticking to the task.
And a straight shooter?
Very straight,
Yeah.
very candid, and very good at what he does.